All right, my friends, Brian with VetteSource here, where today we're going to take a moment to work on our infrastructure vehicles actually. We're going to get into replacing the fuel pump on our daily work truck, Chevy GMT-400 3500 one-ton single rear wheel that we've used. It's been a mainstay of our business here at VetteSource for 20 years now. I've been driving this truck 20 years. That's a pretty good testament to how well it has survived. So as coincidence would have it, I replaced the fuel pump on this truck about 16 or 17 years ago. Went ahead and went out a few years after I bought the truck, and I bought a new GM unit. Did not buy an aftermarket, and it lasted 16, 17 years. What we noticed here the last couple of months, I've been noticing, is I'm beginning a loss of power in the upper RPM ranges, like it was starving of fuel. And thought it was kind of weird, because a lot of times on the small block cars, electric fuel pump systems, when they break, they fail, they don't run. They're not going to run anymore. But this truck, for some reason, was designed, from what I can understand, looking in the service manual and checking out some other sources, that the injection system on this truck is designed to start it even with barely any fuel pressure. It'll still start the motor and keep it running. So after doing a test yesterday, we actually were able to hook right into our Schrader valve, which is right there, conveniently located on this truck versus location on some of the others. We're getting our initial, and these run like at 58 to 62 pounds of fuel pressure under normal operation. We got a normal prime when we turned the key forward, but then we were losing pressure down to about 20 psi, and then while it was running, we were getting about 48 to 50, which is pretty low. It's not really what it's supposed to be. High enough for it to be running, but of course under power applications was not doing what it's supposed to do. And of course with a 454 under the hood and towing, you know, however many thousands of pounds I've towed over the years, it just wasn't cutting it. So I'm thinking, again, with the age of the fuel pump and things like that, that's where we're going to go. A couple other things I can check on it, but for now we're going to do the fuel tank or fuel pump, and of course the fuel filter. So anyway, for you guys that have not seen before, this is essentially what a truck from the south that has not been exposed to the corrosive elements of up north road salt and everything else. This is essentially what you're going to be looking at for a truck that's lived its life down here, and it's been here its whole life. So you can see it's actually not that hard to work on, with everything is relatively clean. In the fuel tank, what we've got on this truck, because it's a 1-ton single rear wheel, we've got a 34-gallon fuel tank, which if you're unlucky and it pump fails when it's a full tank, you're talking well over 200 pounds of gas, so it becomes a problematic kind of issue. That's where I think I see a guys liking to take the bed off the truck, but to be honest with you, on an 8-foot bed, they're not light. The bed's got to weigh at least 300 pounds itself. Man, I don't know, maybe a little bit less, but for my purpose, I'm just going to take it out. So all we're going to do today is disconnect this main fuel feed hose here. We've got a vapor return line right there. Over here, we've got one strap bolt right here, and we've got our second strap bolt right there, and the tank will drop out. So give me a second, I'm going to set this up. Like as most of my videos where I'm working underneath the vehicle, you'll have to bear with me because sometimes I'm one-handed this, but I'll get set up here and I'll be right back, and I'll show you guys just taking this out real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, back onto the truck again, where we're going to continue to release this as I make sure my light works here, so you guys can see. So this is just our main band clamp for the fuel neck inlet, and I've already pre-loosened this as well, as I do on a lot of my working on cars videos, so I don't lose my mind. Okay, and that one is loose, and this one should pull for me. I'm trying not to break it, and I'm just going to break the seal here a little bit. So get that off of there. Now again, it hasn't been off in 16, 17 years, so we'll see how it cooperates. And of course here, we've got this one pre-loosened already. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull that one off, so that one's free. This ground strap I really don't need to worry about, simply because it's tied into the bed. And I'm gonna come underneath here. Okay, let's see if I can get this at an angle so you guys can see. These strap bolts are really just 15 millimeter long bolts. They're not real stressful to get out as long as they're not rusted. So let's go ahead and locate our bolt there. There's a lot of dirt in my hair. Okay, you can see how long that bolt is, but oh, that makes it good for being able to run that up there a little bit if you don't have it all the way. I'm gonna go ahead and put my jack underneath here to support the tank. And luckily for me, the tank only has about a gallon in it, so we're not in too bad a shape. So we're just gonna hold that up there, and we're going to get on this side of this bolt here. Oops. And therein lies the problem of having your camera angle right there next to where you want to film. All right. So we're going to grab the second strap bolt here. Okay. Let's go for a more robust setting on the impact. There goes. Since that one doesn't want to come out. Let's see here. Go. All right, that one's out. Like I said, I'm fortunate that I'm not dealing with a vehicle that has spent a lot of time up north, so we can access this pretty easily. All right. Now you can see they did make this pretty low stress. Okay. 2 straps out on this monstrously large tank that requires a heck of a lot of money to fill up. At current gas prices, it's about $100, and it really doesn't go that far either. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lower this just a little bit. My jack will cooperate with me. And you can see it already coming down. I'll get this out of the way. Which is helpful. Now, but of course, I've still got my lines attached. So what we're gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to go off camera and get these lines detached up here. And let me take care of that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got our tank down on the ground where we can get to it. And of course, camera angles are always kind of bad in this. But I will say that GM did put a lot of effort. I think the car manufacturers in general put a lot of effort into making access to the fuel tank a heck of a lot easier than it used to be in the prior years gone. Just so that you could get in there and get these off. Now I may be able to work this in here. I don't think I'm going to be able to on camera. I have to do this off camera. Anyway, of course, this is just the tool to release these lines right here. These lines are kind of a captive line that come in, so I'll have to do this off camera, unfortunately, because I've got to have 2 hands to make this work. So I'm going to take care of this real quick, and then I'll show you guys the actual removal of the tank, or not the tank, but the fuel pump assembly here in a second. Okay, well, one of the unintended consequences, of course, with having a fuel pump assembly that's in there for so long is that the lines don't want to come loose, especially these really nifty pressure lines here, these clip lines. You might be able to see this GoPro, how filthy that is inside of there. Spent quite a bit of time trying to get those loose, and then of course I ended up with one problem I'm going to have to rectify here, is that this one still has the piece of tubing broke off in there, so I'm going to have to fish that out here in a little while, work with that. But what we'll do here in a few minutes is we'll go ahead and remove this pump. I'm going to clean it up just a little bit more here on the top before we get too much deeper, because I don't want a lot of contamination inside my tank here. And then we'll take this old one out, put the new one back in, and then move on from there to our next merry adventure, which I would have been done by now if the fuel lines hadn't been so difficult. So that's just the way it goes, and that's something to consider when you're dealing with older cars too. You know, again, I advocate maintaining these vintage daily drivers, but sometimes things can get a little testy with you. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up here in a minute, and then I'll be back with you guys to show you the install process. Okay, so we got that piece cleaned off, or the outer ring I should say, cleaned off. Now, I've seen a couple of different iterations on how GM secures these newer fuel pumps, and like I said, they've done a pretty good effort. They've made an effort over the last 25 years or so to make these easy to get out. The Corvette fuel pump on the C4 is removed from the top. You actually don't even have to drop the tank from the car, but however, there are 8 bolts, 10mm bolts that go around the perimeter of it, and oftentimes they are seized up and will break off in the fuel tank when you take them off. So that's no fun. I think I've done a video on removing the Corvette fuel tank before, but anyway, some of them just have pressure where you put them and slide them and clock them to the left and they'll remove it. And this one actually has a snap ring, so all we really got to do, grab my proper tool here, and it's really not a high pressure snap ring either. I'll move this a little bit so you guys can see. It just comes in there, and you release it there, right? Same size over here. Actually, this is the first time I've actually seen this on these, because actually I take that back, because when I changed this 16 years ago, I just didn't remember that this is the way they did this. Now let me go ahead and brush a little bit more of that debris out of the way, just because I don't want it inside the tank. And I'm just gonna pull straight up and out with this. We give it a little bit of help here, since again it's been in here for a very long period of time. Let's see. Come on, buddy, work with me here. There it is. Okay. All right. So let's see what a 16-year-old, 17-year-old fuel pump from General Motors looks like here. Honestly, not terribly bad shape. Still looks good, and like I said, this really wasn't completely failed yet. However, it was not giving me the pressure that I wanted. And I think a lot of the way they made these more durable was by encasing them in this plastic housing. Normally before, you can see, let's get that fuel out of there. the actual air tanks or pump assembly itself is right inside there. So it sits inside this housing on these later pumps, and that actually did a really good job of protecting the sending unit assemblies and things of that nature. In fact, I think even by 92, 93, the Alantes, the cars that I've done some of these videos on here, where I removed the fuel pump systems, actually had a similar setup with that enclosure. And I think now mainly you see Delphi is the ones that make the replacement enclosures for these. So of course here's our new pump assembly, and we're just gonna, actually what we do is run that just on the inside of that lip there. Trying not to break my own rule with trash in there. And just for grins, the inside of the tank looks beautiful, so we don't really have any problems there. So we're just gonna go ahead and come in from an angle and then come straight down and go straight to the bottom. And we're going to push down. Make sure we're in the right spot here. You're just gonna make me work for it, aren't you? We're close. It just doesn't want to go in that lip right there. Part of it too is the fact that the snap ring holds tension on it when you go in there, so sometimes it doesn't want to sit that last bit. So let me work on this for a minute. I'll be right back while we get this finished up. Alright, so there we've got this seated now, of course, with our little soap trick. If you ever are looking to do a little bit of a seal, doesn't want to cooperate, you can always put a little bit of Dawn, just a tiny bit of dish soap, doesn't matter if it's Dawn or not, anyway, in there, and that will usually seat that. So now what we need to do is find our little extension rings here, or our clips, so we can get this back in there again. Get it clocked correctly. Okay, got those in. Got those in. Those are in. Let's go ahead and gently get that over there. Last one, of course. There we go. Alright. So, that is that, my friends. I know it doesn't really matter, I just hate getting grease all over this. But, there is the fuel pump assembly change out, which was 20 times easier, 100 times easier than trying to get the fuel lines off of there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to have to go ahead and work on that fuel line to get that piece of broken extension off of there, hopefully before dark, so that I'm not putting this back together again in the dark. That's going to wrap video up for today, guys. I'm going to be back with more Corvette content, because that's what we're all about here. Even though this old truck has hauled so many Corvettes around, that might as well be a Corvette itself, and it does have a 454 in it. I don't know why, it just bugs me with that in the corner there. So anyway, that's gonna do it today, guys. Appreciate you watching. Like I said, I know it may not be everybody's thing, but if you've never bothered to actually see how one of these fuel tanks comes out of these big boys, here it is, 34-gallon tank, 454, 3500, 1-ton Chevy. So catch up with you guys next time. Thanks for watching again. We'll see you then.